So do you remember those 12-inch MacBooks that in the moment people kind of hated because of the build quality, the keyboard, and the only one USB-C port, but now if they're gone, everybody wants them back and people are missing them? Well, it looks like Apple's finally going to bring them back, but it's going to be a little bit different, and it's part of a much bigger picture that I think we need to talk about. Let's get into it. But now before we continue, if you enjoy videos like this one, definitely consider subscribing to the channel to get more content like this on a weekly basis. Now, let's talk about this new MacBook. So let's actually start off with the leak itself by analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, who came out and said that Apple's working on a sub $999 MacBook offering, but it's going to be powered by the A18 Pro, which is the same chipset that's in the iPhone 16 lineup. And again, this isn't anything crazy and something that a lot of people have been insinuating and inferring, because when Apple brought out the M series chip, it was built based upon the A lineup of SoC. So it was basically an A series chip that was in iPhones and the iPad Pros at the time, and they just kind of desktopified it a little bit and called it the M-powered MacBook Air when it originally came out in 2020, and we were blown away by the performance and power, especially compared to the Intel chips. So it does make sense that they're bringing the iPhone SoC to a smaller form factor and also a cheaper offering from a laptop standpoint. Ever since people were blown away by that M-series MacBook that came out in 2020, they've been wanting Apple to put this M-series chip in that 12-inch MacBook and make it a cheaper price point because people miss that form factor. When it first came out, it was a little bit ahead of its time in my opinion. It only had one USB-C port when people just weren't ready for that quite yet, especially in the Apple world that moves a little bit slower in terms of universal adoption. And then secondly, the butterfly keyboard just wasn't it. The keyboard was very mushy. It was still the same keyboard that people had issues with the MacBook Pro lineup of the time. So overall, from a hardware offering, people loved the size and the portability of it all. But if you needed to do anything more than just some simple Google Docs or Word document or emailing, it would really just get bogged down. So throwing an M-series chip in that thing, in that form factor, making it 12 inches, maybe adding a secondary USB-C port now in 2025 that we're ready for it and we're used to it, and also of course fixing the keyboard situation, it's going to get a much better offering, and I think that would actually sell like hotcakes, and I think that's what we're getting towards with the sub $1,000 laptop that Apple's working on. And now to pivot a little bit in terms of what this really means, I want to talk about iPadOS 26 and what that kind of shows off in an A-powered laptop. Because again, we got this brand new windowing system, the multitasking got a lot more macOS-like, with the traffic stop light on the top left of all the windows to open, minimize, and close. You also have the new taskbar or menu bar on the top of it. The file system got revamped to be a little bit more Mac-like. You can also put now files in the dock itself and then fan them out, or view them in a grid view, access them much easier. So things are just getting a lot more familiar when it comes to the operating system on iPad, but this is going to be the key thing here with iPadOS 26. I thought when we first got iPadOS 26 and it was unveiled, everybody thought that it was going to be for M-series powered iPad. So the iPad Air, of course the M4 iPad Pro, maybe some older iPad Pros would get the windowing system, but again, nobody thought that the entry-level iPad or the iPad mini was going to get this windowing system in this new multitasking. And lo and behold, you can literally have an iPad, I believe 7th generation I've seen people get, running iPadOS 26. I believe it's only iPad 8th generation, but with some workarounds, I think you can get it running on the 7th generation. But again, those are older iPads that are running older chipsets, and they're still able to run this kind of multi-window setup and be able to be used as a netbook. So they can surf the web, they can have Twitter open, Safari open, they can do some of their communication stuff. So from a netbook standpoint, if you guys remember that category of laptop, these iPads, even though they're so quote-unquote low-powered with these A-series chips, they're able to run this new windowing system, which I think does open up the door for this A-series powered MacBook that's coming down the line. So again, the most impressive part of iPadOS 26 isn't what it can do on the high-level M4 iPad Pro, but it's what it can do on the cheapest version of the iPad, which brand new, you can get an A16 iPad for $300, and the experience is one-to-one from a software perspective compared to the $2,000 M4 13-inch iPad Pro that I personally have, which again is kind of annoying as somebody who purchased a $2,000 iPad, but at the end of the day, it just brings more accessibility to more people at a cheaper price point, giving you the best possible version from a software perspective of the iPad. So now if you combine iPadOS 26 with a new version of a MacBook that's running on an iPhone kind of chipset or the SoC, which will be the A18 Pro, that opens up a lot of doors. I can imagine some sort of macOS Lite version, maybe an iPadOS version of whatever's going to happen put on this kind of cheaper MacBook, this new netbook. This is going to be focused on people who just want to be on the go. There isn't going to be a lot of onboard storage. This is going to be somebody who's always kind of on iCloud, using iCloud storage, somebody who's always kind of just using it for communication and email and Slack and messaging and iMessage, maybe a FaceTime here and there. And of course, it's going to be running the A18 Pro, so we'll be able to have that windowing system. It'll still be able to multitask. It'll have a version of Stage Manager. It'll still be able to have all the Apple Intelligence benefits, which hopefully they will be better as time goes on, because the A18 is, built for Apple Intelligence because it's built into the iPhone 16 lineup. So those are all things that are working towards building this new smaller or cheaper version of a MacBook that will be available and open the door to more people to kind of get into this world. And I think this macOS Lite operating system is something that's going to be very popular coming down the line. So for years, I've continued to say that I think the ultimate version of an operating system for Apple is when they all kind of converge into one. So iOS, iPadOS, and macOS all kind of become one thing. And as you're seeing, even with this latest keynote at WWDC, things are looking way more familiar. Things are looking a lot more similar. App icons look the same. Liquid Glass is now the UI across all the different operating systems. We have a unified naming moniker now with the 26 at the end of everything. There's no kind of differentiation between them. A lot of the same features and functions are kind of becoming one-to-one. Yes, it's still not one-to-one when it comes to iPadOS and macOS, but it is getting much, much closer. So I think the ultimate goal is to not worry about the operating system, but worry about the form factor, and the operating systems will just be like that version of the operating system for that certain form factor, whether it is the candy bar slab phone, whether it is an iPad, a MacBook, a smaller MacBook, a folding phone, Vision OS or Vision Pro. All these things will just be a different way or a different window into the operating system in different use cases depending on your environment around you. And I think this is going to be the beginning of that kind of convergence of all the different operating systems. I know that Apple's come out and said they want to keep the iPad an iPad and they want to keep the Mac a Mac, but now introducing a sub $1,000 offering that's running some sort of iPadOS, macOS kind of converged operating system, I think is going to kind of mix up the offering and mix up what the target audience is for each of these pieces of hardware. So let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is this something that you want to see from Apple? Do you want to see a $700 kind of MacBook Air-like offering? Do you want to see a 12-inch MacBook running on the A series A18 Pro to be able to run this kind of macOS Lite version that I think they're going to be releasing? Do you think that's going to cannibalize MacBook Air sales? What's going to happen to the MacBook Air? Because if they're offering this $700 MacBook, then they also have the MacBook Air. I wonder what the differentiation there is going to be. Maybe larger display size, maybe bigger battery life, and then of course you have the MacBook Pros for the people that need a little bit more power and are really using it from a creative standpoint and really pushing the limits. So I think the MacBook Air is an offering that's going to be the most up in the air, because for most people, just using a cheaper MacBook for communication that's in your Apple ecosystem is going to be enough, and if they need a workhorse, they'll go and get a MacBook Pro, or they'll get a Mac Mini that's a little bit more powered up, or a Mac Studio. Those are all different things that we're going to have to see how it unfolds. But I am happy that Apple's going to be bringing a new offering to the MacBook lineup, because we've been on 13 and 15-inch versions of these MacBooks for a long time, and they definitely have room for a netbook-style MacBook that is smaller, is more portable, is cheaper, maybe offers cellular data as well, works within the Apple ecosystem, and is kind of in the middle of iPad and macOS. But let me know in the comment down below what you think. I'm excited to see how this all ends up, and I think it's coming sooner rather than most people think. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to watch more videos like this one, definitely check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.